Hello, hello.
Hello. Good to see
I
you again.
I just realized how soon graphical conf already is.
Yeah.
It's like,
I I need to book a flight.
yeah, same. Flights, hotels, stuff like this.
Yeah.
But I checked it, I was like, that's just this, a bit of holidays, and then I it's already graphical conf. Crazy.
Yep. It's still summer.
Yep. I mean, finally it is.
Oh yeah, but I mean GraphicalConf is still like technically it's still summer when
Well, it's always summer in San Francisco anyway, right?
well
No, it's
It
actually
has a
San
cold breeze,
Francisco.
right?
Yeah,
it does.
or
It
it's
does.
never summer. Maybe that's
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
never.
Well, apparently it's good. It's a good climate.
Oh yeah, no, I much prefer that over like heat.
Yeah, I'm not built for it. Like extreme heat, I rather freeze.
Well, I'd rather neither.
Yeah, true. If I have to choose, then
Yeah.
But it looks good. The schedule looks good. Like I think there are 4 topics coming in, but it looks good. The schedule of the conference.
Great. Yeah.
Have
Are,
you
are
have you
we
signed
are
up?
we
Have you signed up for it, Martin?
Oh
Like for
yeah.
the I know I saw your conference talk, but you can see already as a speaker. You can already see the schedule. So
Oh,
we have to sign into there was a message that you should have received, which is like from schedule or something like that. And if you sign in there, you can already see the whole schedule.
I'll have a look. I did click like accept on some screen, but that might have been a different email.
Yeah,
Um,
the second day is basically um, where the distributed graphical talks, like Federation and so forth, is under. There's also the panel on the second day,
great.
and but you can have a look. It's a
Yeah,
very
no,
good.
I will.
It's a very good schedule, very balanced. Also, like lots of topics from all across the ecosystem. There's even like there's one talk from the House in the US, like the government chamber. They have the House and they have the
Mhm.
Senate, and they're using GraphQL in the House, like as a tool for distributing information, and they're gonna give a talk about that. And I found like it's
That
really
should be
cool.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
house.
yeah. The talk is called GraphQL in the House. When I reviewed it, it was like sounded interesting the title, and then it came out that they mean the House as one of the government chambers of Congress. So really cool to see.
Yeah.
Are we complete already? Or is Derek gonna come
Yes,
today?
I merged all the pull requests, so I'm assuming we are complete. Okay, let's start actually the meeting. Okay, let me remind you that by being here, we all agree to the GraphQL Spec Membership Agreement and also to the GraphQL Code of Conduct. If you need a refresher, they are linked in the agenda. And let's do a quick round of introduction in the order of the attendee list. So I'm going to start. I'm Michael, and I'm the host today.
Hey. Oh, wait. Sorry. Pascal's next.
I need to open it.
You're next, Pascal.
Pascal. I also refer to the game. Sorry.
Camille from the guild.
And Shane from Apollo.
And Martin from Apollo.
Awesome. Okay, we have put 3 things on the agenda for today. The first thing is to discuss the current state of the field selection map. The second is I started work on require on the spec text. We can look at that. So we go to the next thing. I outlined that last week already. And then we can have a look at the status of batch. I started discussing it with Benji, and I've started on the spec text, and I will push some thought of spec text to the GraphQL over HTTP work group. And what I discussed with Benji is that we focus for now on queries, like that batching is described with the limitation that it can be used with queries. That doesn't exclude use of mutations and subscriptions. If we come up with the use case, for us, it's query is the important thing. But there could be future use cases, but we wanted to get rid of the complexity that you have if you mix queries and mutations, and you have maybe transaction limitations or whatever you run into. So we focus like on data fetching.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, but we can go into that in detail later. So let's start with Pascal.
Yep.
And then
this one, I believe. Let's see. Do you see something? It looks like.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's see if this works. So thanks for reviewing the spec text. You had a few comments. I have also a few things to add, and then we can quickly go through them, and I guess we can finalize it afterwards. I think the main point what I have seen is the or what definitely needs to be adjusted, because we talk about it for so long, is the shorthanded syntax, so that you do not have to specify the field name and the so the input field name and the output field name if they match. So that's something I think you commented as well, Martin, somewhere.
Yeah, that's a different one. But yeah, that's it, I think. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So I think we have two things here. So this would be the shorthanded syntax, right? At the moment, you have to specify it from the specification like this. I think we talked I think we all agree in the meantime, or is someone against the shorthanded syntax? Because then we don't really have to discuss it much. I'll just add it somewhere into the specification. Do you all agree that it would make sense in this case to just make it shorthand like this, so that we don't have to first name, because that's like the most common use case that you will have? We will always specify the brackets to avoid ambiguity, even though I think we could resolve the ambiguity out of the context, but I think it's more correct to actually say that you want to have an object.
yeah, because it's an object, and this makes it clear.
Especially with scalars, it would get really difficult because you don't know what it is, when you have custom scalars and on things like this. If you know that it's a composite type, then fair enough. But so good, we just wrapped that. Then the next thing we ran into today in require is that you in lookups you usually just have a field name that you have to specify. With require, what you often have is that you have a path, like for example, dimension size or dimension weight. Now the question is, if this would be an input where you have a field called size and a field called weight, is this also valid as the shorthand syntax? Do we also?
The idea was if the last member of the path aligns with the mappable field, if we could just drop it, like it would be a nice way to do it.
It might be nice. It might also be confusing.
Yes. Yeah, that's why we wanted to discuss it today.
Yeah.
because there is it's nice to have a short syntax, but is it too ambiguous?
I think my worry here would be that it doesn't really like you want to make clear that you're bringing dimension size to the top level, and it's not actually nested under dimension in the mapping, and that's the part that I think would be confusing with the shorthand. And this shows nicely that we're putting that like the value at that path at a top level size or a top level weight field.
You actually see that you pull something
pulling it up.
Yeah.
Okay, so that makes it also easier to specify. We just say single field names would be more or less the alias for field name. That's fine. That's good. So I think this one is covered. That's one thing which is a bit of work for me. Oh.
Then just to maybe add another example, just to clarify, if I'm understanding this correctly, then you can't, or would you still be able to use two field names? So first name, last name, and with the shorthand syntax.
Well, but only if it's within an object, right? Because the end result needs to be a single value.
Yes. Yeah.
What do we do with? Yeah.
There's nothing. Lookup is empty, Pascal.
No, I'm just typing something. I'm just need a place to type. I can also do it up here. Don't worry. Look. I'm not making up new syntax now. Okay. Yeah, I think for lists things are good as well. That's fine. Okay, let's make a move. That's good.
One question.
Yep.
So should the shorthand syntax apply also on the nested objects if the name matches?
That's what we like. I have an example in the require spec text. We can have a look at that.
Because if it's like one, like for example, you have like, it requires a size and then there's like, width and height or something, right? So then everything here is like 1-1.
I would say that this is always the root name.
Oh no, I would not say that.
So
it's the current level.
Yeah, but what I mean is like dimension, and then you like go into the object, and then you have width and height.
Yeah, that would be valid. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Wait, so you would say that let's specify this out because that's interesting. I would expect something else, but let's see. So if we would specify this out, this would be dimension, and then we would say wait, whatever.
Why
I think
are you repeating dimension there?
No, he's just putting some example in to discuss it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but does this mean like the path is dimension.dimension.height?
No, because these are always from the root. They are only scoped to the brackets. We need only.
I would say they're scoped to the current.
But then you cannot reshape.
Yeah, but this interesting. But what if it's not called dimension, right? What if in the input it's called dimension, but in the output type it's called something else?
Exactly. If can you change the root name, Pascal? Not dimension. Do foo. Foo, it doesn't exist in the output type.
But how do you how would you specify something that's nested under package size in this case?
So let's say package size doesn't exist on the output, right?
Oh no, but it could, and I think that's the issue.
So if it's the thing is, if we always have to specify the full pass name, it's not ambiguous. So you always would have the full output pass name to refer to something, and you put it into a structure.
Yeah, it's always from the root when you're in a scope, and the scope is a list.
But you could be fairly deeply nested, and you'd have to like keep repeating the whole scope.
Yeah,
that
it will be annoying.
But we kind of need this, right?
I mean, I agree we need both, but maybe I mean this would be
We could.
a weird addition, but have like a slash to start from the root, like slash dimension.
No. Why don't if we have a dot in the path, it's always a rooted path, or we have something like that's why you want an indicator, right, Martin? To have like to indicate, okay, this is a rooted path.
Yeah, or the other way around, like that could also, but I think the unqualified version, like to me, but maybe that's just like coming from like looking at it as like a JavaScript object literal syntax. I would expect yeah, I would expect the default to be to evaluate it starting from the current.
The problem is
where do you
it's two completely different things. This dimension is an output and this dimension is an input. They don't have a relation to each other. They just happen to be the same.
Yeah.
Actually, in this case, this would be valid too, I guess. Or would it? We could make it valid.
Yeah. But what if they do match? Like if for instance, if you have like dimension as the outer, and then you have height or width, like because you like if you put it like this, you always have to specify the whole path, and that means like the deeper you nest, the deeper the path gets, and that seems pretty annoying.
Would it be fine then? Could the syntax work if in between on line 67, we have the brackets, package size, colon, and then right at that point we specify dimension as selecting into the object, and then you can get rid of it, and you can just say height width.
That might work, yeah. But if we accept the shorthand, I think no, I mean that would work. But what does that mean for the first on line 66? Because there, if we interpret it in like the shorthand dimension in the same way, this would specify dimension dot height.
No, because we wouldn't drill in, right?
We didn't have the prefix before the brackets.
No, but we've just talked about the shorthand. So dimension is actually the same as dimension colon dimension.
You mean here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this would be always rooted. Except here you specify the scope in front of the selection set.
Yeah, but that's conflicting with the shorthand we agreed on before for like first name, because there we're saying that if the input and the output field names match, you don't have to repeat yourself. So that means dimension on line 66 actually means dimension colon dimension. That's what it expands into the shorthand.
Yeah, that means that the page size actually has the same object structure, right?
Yeah, so there it would actually be package size dot dimension dot height, the path.
Pascal, can you maybe open a new document?
Why?
Because we're saying on line 68, we're saying that because like that dimension is the mapping, and then it's dimension dot height, dimension dot width, right? Like we're interpreting it based on the parent.
Menu file.
Yeah, because sometimes it would be good to have the input type structure. Like because like in this case, like in the last example, it's like input and output actually match, right?
Yeah.
Of package size to dimension.
Yeah. So the root field name, like the package size or dimension name, doesn't match, but the height and the width fields within do match. And that.
So let's specify quickly the I don't know, lookup input, because that's just going to be the input. There we have a dimension on it, and this is the dimension input, and there we have dimension like this, right?
Yeah.
We have an output which would be which has package size, and there we have dimension. It's actually not so bad. And let's that would be like this. Lookup, and here we have this. So yeah, typos, but if you find them, you can keep them.
Yeah, quite in a few places, but yeah, it's fine. It's like almost one-to-one.
Yeah, whatever.
I mean, from my point of view, the rule should be you check at the same level. If the fields are matching, yeah, you do the shorthand. If not, you have to like opt out, and then you look up the path.
But then
So-
you make the interpretation dependent on the schema. That seems dangerous, because then it might change under your hands. Like if someone adds a field at a certain level, it might certainly change the interpretation of the selection set.
Mm,
So I think you should sort of unambiguously look at the syntax and at least know what the structure will be like.
That's
Like,
also
you
good.
don't know whether it's valid, but it's at least you should know what the structure will look like.
That's a good point, Martin, because like, what if you specify here dimension matches package size, and then we are, but it maybe has more, like package size already has more properties, and now you're adding something to the output side and automatically it does something that was maybe not intended.
not
If
sure
we-
I understand.
Hmm?
Not sure I
Yeah,
understand really. I mean,
Yeah, at the moment,
composition,
at the moment,
composition will have to check the naming of the field anyway, right? Distraction
Yes.
and everything.
and they could match, right?
Well,
Yeah,
you have
but
to
if
check
they
it as part of
do-
validation. You do.
Yeah.
But I think the point is that you should be able to. Well, I think there are two points. One is you should sort of be able to look at just the syntax and know what the output structure would be like.
Yes, exactly.
And the other one is that you want to make sure that it's sort of unambiguous, even when the underlying schema changes. Like
Yeah.
someone adding a field at another level should not affect how we interpret the syntax.
The idea of the current specification is that what you specify here is the input. So when we do this, then we have an input. That's the input that you can pass in. You can take this and then pass it into the query. Because you need to have the package size, and there is dimension input, height and width. That's the thing.
Yeah.
What we do in this specification is we basically specify where these values come from.
Yeah.
These values come from dimension, which is from the package output type. Dimension, there you go. The height and the width. And now if we do this, it is really difficult to say what this means, because it could very easily get ambiguous. Sorry, not this one. What did we want to do? Just like this, right? We
Yeah,
want
plus the
this
package size.
same as this.
Only
No.
if the package size
You
shares
still
the
need to
name.
you still need to rename package size to dimension.
Yes.
Yeah, but package size would be the input, right?
Yeah. But I mean, I think you need the one on line 29 rather than the one you have here. Like this would be invalid because package size is just the name of the input, not the name of the output.
Exactly.
We agree, Pascal, that it would be confusing. Which is what you're saying. It would be confusing. So we should not do the end of line 25. We should not allow that syntax. I think we all agree that.
Yeah.
I mean, what I meant is really like if this thing matches, let's say, the dimension, like if this is the same, then yeah, we move down. And then if this is the same as this, we can do the shorthand and so on until a point when this is different, right?
Okay, so let's
So then you need to apply like dimension here. So then this part, when you have the shorthand for the width and the height, you can check what is the intent here. Because if you look from here up, then you have the whole path. So I don't see any ambiguity there, to be honest.
The question is, how do you get it rooted? Like,
I just feared this.
Yeah.
This is so confusing.
Why is it so okay.
You wouldn't just on the right of the equality check, the right side, you would delete the colon, right? Because the colon is making it not the alias, right? Because if it only specifies the field name, then it's the alias.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's what we discussed. Yeah. So that's a difference we should keep in mind.
Because specifying that is the same as dimension colon dimension, right?
But that's not a field selection path. That's like completely different specification. We're now talking about selection sets, because that's a selection set. That's a set of dimension. That's a different specification. It's a different thing, because at the moment,
you need the colon. Yeah.
The whole specification is about actually creating these paths. If we allow this, then we have selection sets. Then it's completely different. Then it's more like the other approach that we have here in the field selection.
And it also becomes much more difficult to write the parser for it, to interpret it.
The question is a bit, what do we want to achieve, right? Because what's the fear that we have? That it gets too complicated to match when we always have to root them? And how common is this?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and also sort of how difficult we're making the common case. Because I suspect the case where, for instance, you want to like rename dimension to package size, but width and height fields are the same in both input and output. Seems like a pretty common situation to me.
Yeah. I think
more common than having to go up a level or even more.
What we could define, I guess, is we could just say that if the shape matches, then we're good. But then again, you need to know the schema, right? But
I don't think the interpretation should be schema dependent. That seems really dangerous, and I think we can.
Yeah.
No,
that's the other fear.
Get by without it.
But what I mean is more the validation. If you do this, we could allow this.
But we shouldn't. I mean,
no, because things might change.
Explicit. Yeah, exactly. Like I agree with like having everything defined here. It's just that like from the user perspective, the actual consumer of this spec, let's say, it will be like extremely annoying to always go from the root. That's one thing. And the other thing is that like the shorthand is really for the user, like to not write a lot and to like be able to like read it and I know it all, right? Because if the paths are like, even like dimension.height, it's like, it's a lot of dimension. And if you have like a huge object that has like 10 fields, you repeat dimension 10 times. And it's like, yeah, it's fine from the spec perspective, but if you look at it, like imagine checking what the fields are there, like it's crazy. And then we don't have like IDE support, so there will be no formatting for that for some part of time. So you know what I mean? Like that, then there is an issue because people will have to format it on their own, and it's like, oh my god.
And it might even be like nested multiple levels.
Yeah.
I think like this. That's what I think.
Yeah, but if we can drop dimension.height and just leave height, I feel this is like, I don't see a reason why we shouldn't, to be honest.
Well, I mean, the only thing we still need to figure out is how you can actually go up one or more levels in cases where you do need it.
I mean, it doesn't work because if we don't allow dimension, if we don't allow this mapping because we fear that the schema changes.
Wait, which mapping?
I'm typing this one because we fear that the schema changes. We cannot allow the shorthanded syntax.
Why not?
It's for fields.
It's unambiguous.
Yeah, we can say that if it's a composite type, then you cannot just do a one-to-one mapping because it's not clear what is behind.
Yeah, it's just for the primitives.
But if it's a leaf type, It just works.
So
Yeah.
this would be the goal. But that is, as soon as you, for example, say, well, now the package has a height and the width, it's ambiguous.
Well, it's not ambiguous, but we need a way to specify that you're not starting from the current context. I'm not saying we're interpreting height or width either at the current level or at the root level. I'm saying we need a way to specify both, but you do need to be explicit about it.
Do we have a dollar dot or something like this?
Yeah, for instance, something like that.
And then we know this is from the root. It could be another syntax, but something like this, where we say this is the root, and we want to navigate now from the root.
Yeah,
This is something we discussed internally at Apollo 2, and we did a this $this to refer to.
I'm not worried about what we take, but something that is not possible as a field name. So it's clear this is where we start from.
Yeah. And when we did $this, we were referring to your current depth location.
Yeah.
Like So
it's the opposite.
It was the opposite. Yeah. That's what we had discussed. But this is irrelevant. I'm just saying we've also investigated something similar to this. It kind of actually works out with the syntax we were trying to solve for our problem. But I agree. I think this is doing something like explicit with the root specifier as a fallback. It is helpful.
Yeah. Or I mean, I wasn't kidding with the like slash or like even full like dot slash, because I feel you may not always want to start out from the root. Like you may just want to go up one level, for instance.
Yeah, but this is dangerous because it's not always guaranteed that you have a way upwards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I mean,
like a GraphQL type is not always doesn't always have a parent. It could be that.
No, but I'm not saying you can go beyond the current, like the output object that we're interpreting.
Okay.
I'm just saying that you could have sort of, instead of like dimension height, you could have like dot slash height.
Yeah, but
and then
like the
then you don't always have to start out from the root, I'm saying, because you might be nested sort of multiple levels and only want to go up one level.
Yeah, but so what I dislike about that is not the functionality, but the part that we now have two kind of passes, one dotted pass and one slashed pass. It becomes very, very mixed up, complex syntax.
Yeah, I'm really not a huge fan of adding more complexity in syntax, because I mean, I'm not sure if we have this problem. I mean, I'm searching for when do we run into the issue where these mappings become really complicated, and when does a user have to type them, right?
I mean, I think we have an example here, right? So we either map directly to width and height at the same level, or we need to go up one level.
For me, this analogy makes it super clear what it is. It's
but kind of, if you look on 32, this is also very clear, Pascal.
Yeah, but we need new syntax. We make things more complicated. For that, we allow something like this where you do not know exactly what height and width is, right?
You do know what they are. You know that the input and the output fields match and they're at that level.
It's only if you like in the case we would say we always, like, if you don't specify a $dot, and again could be another symbol, then it's always matched on the same level.
Could we do it? Could we do it differently? Could we do it like this, that we actually have a variable in scope and then we reference it? So by default, it's like this. And when you want to specify from the current scope, you use a variable?
I mean, that's an alternative.
Because when we would do it like this, we can also theoretically, if we do it like this, we have to add it from the get-go. If we do it like this, we have to add it also later.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we had done.
I mean, I think the question is also sort of what the most common case is, and I suspect like this mapping is actually a pretty common situation, and especially one where, for instance, we want to rename dimension to package size, but keep width and height the same. This is a pretty natural syntax of like dimension : package size, and then you have the width height here. Seems pretty readable and easy to write to me. Especially compared to the need to like write out every mapping from the root.
You couldn't rename like this, right? If you want to use package size, you would have to do like this. I mean, even worse, you would have to do it like this.
No, you don't need that. I'm saying dimension : package size, but keep everything behind the between the braces the same.
Like this.
Yeah.
But then again, this is no longer a path, right?
Why not?
Because height is the height is also just
suddenly a
for
selection
height,
set.
height.
This is suddenly a selection set, not the path syntax that we have. And now you have to probe.
But there could be a dot. Like package
Where?
size dot, and
But
then
that's
you
what we
into
did.
the object.
That's what we did with the
Lists. That's for lists.
because it's
Why?
same JavaScript and knowledge.
We have lists. We have lists. If you map lists, if can you go to the example, Pascal?
Which one? With the list. I'm actually not sure if lists
Yeah.
are in.
Oh, I think I missed that.
No, we discussed that, Martin. It was in one of the discussions that we had
I
talked
think
about
yeah, there
these
you go.
guys here, coordinates.
But
So you
isn't
have
that
two
like-
lists. You have two lists, but the object in the list is different. And then we map it like this.
This is the same issue. In terms of what you're representing, you have two objects, one that's input, one that's output. They're named different fields, and you want to map. Like you didn't have to say coordinates.x on the lat equals coordinates.x from the root, right? So
Yep.
this is the same issue, right? So
Yeah.
we could just
Matter-
use the
it does-
syntax.
You mean that we could just say that it's actually just a projection, and it doesn't matter
No,
if it's
no,
a list.
I think I kind of actually do like the dot specifying to make again the that you're specifying the
That then would just mean that we make a projection, and that, I mean, we have another issue here. What do we do with nested lists? But different problems.
But if it's a list, like I don't get it. Like if it's a nested list, let's say, how do you pick which like element you check from a nested list? Like, is that even like a thing? I would say, like, yeah, you have a list of objects, and then each element of the list has another list. Then you have indexes, and that's like how you like select a field from the list and put it in an object. That for me it makes no sense.
You mean just lists or nested lists?
Both.
I mean, this example would be lists, right? You have a coordinate output type with x and y, and you have a position input type with lat and lon.
Yeah.
So what you have to do is when you want to match these, you have to pass in coordinates, and then you have to match x to lat and y to lon. No idea if this even makes sense.
Yeah, but the type will be like, for example, if you expect a list, then you should give it a list. Like there will be no like list versus non-list, right?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That doesn't exist. Lists versus non-lists.
What does location input look like in this case?
It's down below one case.
Okay, so they're both coordinates. I really don't understand, but maybe
Yeah,
we
why
need to
do we
rethink
opt
this.
into
What
the list?
Well, yeah. Why isn't this just coordinates colon and then the brace syntax? Why do we need the second
Yeah.
coordinates dot at all?
Because it's a path. This is the input, and then we specify, we drill into it, right?
Yeah, but I mean, given what we've been discussing, like what we were discussing before, I think this situation is similar to the with height example that we had before. So if we just had coordinates colon and then the braces.
I mean, we're talking about different proposal. We're talking about this, then you have it.
About what?
Kind of. We had that.
Yeah, the problem is, Martin, if we want to have the dot syntax, then on the side where the dot syntax is cannot be suddenly selection set syntax. Otherwise, we are mixing a lot of syntaxes, and it becomes very confusing for the user if you're now using selection set syntax, dot syntax. And
But
I would be consistent.
Why is it selection set syntax? I don't get that.
I mean, it's just if we do this, you mean doing this, right?
No.
Without the dot.
Yeah.
With a colon, yeah, like this.
Here is the entire information you ever need to resolve both input and output.
There
is no ambiguity.
Yeah.
You have the renaming, which is like let to x, or like the opposite rating, x to lat. Yeah, like so.
Yeah. But does it work?
It's amazing. I mean, from the user perspective, it's like, you know everything. Like,
yeah.
For example, if you don't want
to rename, if you need to rename coordinates because it's like not similar.
Just put it here.
Yeah.
How do we know that we go into coordinates here?
So you wouldn't, yeah.
Because because that's now the default. Because we have separate syntax from mapping from the root.
Yeah, and if you like want to don't repeat like coordinates.x, coordinates.y, you could do this syntax, and then this becomes a shorthand with that.
I mean, it's consistent with the GraphQL object syntax, right? We would have here coordinates. Now we are specifying the object for the coordinate.
Yeah, but that's what we're doing.
And then we have selection syntax in there.
But why is that selection syntax? I don't get that.
No, I thought you meant something different. But this looks good to me.
Like I shared an example on the chat, what I'm thinking about, and like this is basically like a complex example of what I said like 10 seconds ago, with this like shorthand versus not shorthand, opting in, opting out, blah blah blah. But basically, like if the name is exactly the same, you just go in. If the name is exactly the same, you go in one level. And if you want to opt out, you opt out and do the rename, like the alias, or like not alias.
And if coordinates is not coordinates here, then how would we construct the object?
The last example, for example, doesn't work, right?
I might wrote it in an incorrect way, but what I mean here is like, you know that you're within height of dimension, so you can use pixels, and that's it, because you know the whole path upwards. The problem is like how you opt out of it, like should it be like from root? But then that's the question, like can we introduce like a $sign? If there is none, you start from root.
This would just make a very strong assumption that these things are the same.
But I don't know, like there is no assumption. It's like you write the subgraph, you type this, and the input and the output, and it's within the same subgraph, or like the GraphQL API, whatever. So if you change one thing, you also are aware of the inputs and outputs.
But it's not in the same subgraph, right? It's
the outputs.
I mean, it doesn't have to be, but that's.
You wouldn't write. I mean, you can write lookups for your own. Yeah, I mean, I guess you can.
Oh yeah. Well, are we missing anything here? I'm thinking about a case where, for instance, like the coordinates are nested in the inputs and not in the outputs. Like we can rename coordinates here, but if we want to leave out coordinates, for instance, in either the input or the output, could we like replace it with a dot? Like replace one, either the left side or the right side of the field field with a dot? Would that work?
Field colon field.
Yeah. So you're saying if we copy line 174, could you use that
Yeah.
Pascal? Copy line 174 to 175. Just copy it down.
Oh, sorry, I was looking at the chat, so you don't see that.
And then
Yeah.
change the return type on the far right, the return type of the entire query field to coordinates.
Yeah. Cool.
Which is now is just coordinates, which is just the output type is just X and Y, two scalars.
Yeah.
So how does that work? That's your question, Martin?
Yeah, and I'm thinking like if you, instead of here coordinates, if you replace it with like dot colon coordinates.
You mean here?
Yeah. So we already have syntax for like renaming the coordinates field in the input and output. And that's like input name colon output name. And what I'm saying is if either the input or the output is not actually nested, we need to put something there. And I think a dot signaling sort of the current location would work. So it would be like dot colon coordinates.
Do we have this issue? Because that's an assignment anyway. So that would this, right?
Why do we need on the assignment side? Why do we need that?
Well, because there's a difference between the output on line 174 and 175. We can't use the same.
Yeah, because like we don't have to grab that deep. Is that what you're saying?
No,
because
the output is different, right? So in on line 174, we have coordinates in both the input and the output. Like it's nested. Like on line 175, we're trying to get to a plain coordinate object.
Just one.
Yeah, just one.
I mean, in this case, this would be the same thing, right?
It should be a colon here. Or?
No, not coordinate. Because we want to map it to coordinates.
Yeah, this must be, but I would still have a colon there, right? It's an object.
What's coordinate?
It's
you have it there. It's right type coordinate. Yeah. Right below Pascal. You already have it there.
Ah, right. You want to map it to one, but now you map a list. You map an input list to an output.
Oh, sorry, no, it should be a list of coordinates. Yeah. That's
Yeah, but I don't see the point for the dot, because like it should still be an object assignment syntax because we are assigning to the coordinates.
But do you agree it should be different? Like there should be a difference between the mapping for 174 and for 175 because the output is different.
Yeah, there should be an assignment. That's right. That's correct. Sorry, that's right.
There should be an assignment in one case and not in the other, right? Because
no, there should be an assignment in both cases. Because this is the input, right? You're here.
But the mapping can't be the same because the output is different. Like in one case, it's nested under location.
Yeah, you have now
that would be
push down.
It would be like this, or like this. I have a different keyboard. So.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm not saying we have a solution. I'm just saying I think this is a difference we need to account for.
So, play devil's advocate, if we did go back to it, because I think the more I keep thinking about it, it actually seems like it might be okay. If we just didn't do any shorthands, this would all still be very explicit, right? Because if we were required to, on line 174, specify it as lat is :x coordinates.lat. Sorry, not in the outside, like on the
Well, it's
on
a
the each
on the
each field
inside.
explicitly
on
mapped.
each field. Yeah.
Yeah, but here you have to, because you have to map. That's
No,
because
sorry. On each field, on the field mapping.
Just take the coordinates, Pascal, put it in before the x.
yeah, that's wrong because it's a list. That doesn't work. Coordinates is a
Ah,
list.
yeah. That was the thing why we had this.
have to
Martin,
have
do you
co-
remember the discussion?
You have
Yeah,
to
I
have-
do. Yeah.
Now I remember again
you have
why
to-
we did this braces.
You have to
Because
have,
yeah. Go ahead,
but that's
Pascal.
not, it's not a shorthand syntax, right? Because this doesn't work, because now what you could do is if we allow this, then things are difficult. Because if coordinates, if this is,
You're right. Yeah, no, it doesn't work with the list. Yeah.
Could we just put brackets or something? Coordinates brackets .x.
Yeah. Or like put an @ sign in there for the list.
Yeah.
We have
the
some.
problem is more what does happen. I mean, this doesn't allow for weird stuff, so you cannot like merge merge two lists together, right? If you
Is that something we want to like?
no,
What
but
would be examples?
if you would do this, like let's say that you have the bars and the foos.
Oh, yeah, no, we wouldn't allow this. Yeah,
We
no,
definitely wouldn't allow this, but
Yeah.
if we have the syntax, this would be valid from the syntax wise, but it wouldn't work because the scope is actually this, and this has to be scope. So this cannot be coordinates .y and coordinates .x, because if one of the things is different, then we have an issue.
yeah, no, I think we agree on that now. We sort of, I missed the list part. I forgot that part of the previous discussion.
Yeah, it's maybe we should create a separate document just with examples. This is case
I mean,
one,
we do
this is case two. Do we have it there?
It's all there. We've explored this.
Okay, yeah, I know. No, just for our current syntax that we have. So we
Can you post these things in the channel maybe?
in the Slack.
Yeah.
You mean all of it?
No, I mean the examples we just discussed, the ones that you just copied.
Should we use like a live share of VS Code, like a shared editor? Because there's like communication, like, oh, you need to put there the dot and whatever. It's like it would be easier, I guess.
Yeah, we can do that in the next meeting.
Yeah, not today.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
Just we are already almost at the end. That's why it's not worth doing it now. But
the other things I want to discuss are basically on the value node stuff, but that's like doesn't matter if we want to change how the syntax works, right? So
yeah, so maybe we need agreement on this first.
I think we are not so far off. It's just a couple of refinements actually.
I would not burn my fingers on this, because at the moment it's really clear what it does, and I'm not sure if we want to be too smart about it. It's very clear how it works,
but for me there's like the complexity for the spec, complexity from our side, and like complexity for the user. And I think like we should achieve this, like it's super easy for the user, and we deal with the complexity. Because
although it's like if we have to decide, explicitness is better in the beginning, where you can make things implicit. But otherwise, if we are in doubt of some aspects, we should burden more on the user. It's also what the GraphQL spec does. It's very explicit. And then we think about it sometimes very long if it's worth making something implicit, for instance.
But like my point is, like, if we want make people not make, but like convince people to use it, and it's hard, they won't. So then we build a spec for somebody that is really, like 5 people in the world or something, like, you know what I mean? Like,
but it's not
even if we start hard from the, like, yeah, but if we like do the explicitness at the beginning and we show it to the world, then like,
think about the interface implements interface. In GraphQL, you have to repeat the interface implementation over every level. That doesn't mean that you and your GraphQL framework have to do that. But it's like a syntax decision we did in the working group, because we feared of a couple of effects that could happen if you remove an interface and you don't see the effect. I'm just saying, I don't say we should burden rubbish syntax on the user, but it can be good to be hesitant on making it very, very smart in the beginning, and rather have 2 or 3 iterations on it. But we need to make sure and explore how this works out. So we should explore it. But if we are in doubt of some aspects, we can also say, okay, this is version 1. And the version 1 works in the way that we can put the smart logic on top later, and we see already this could fit in. So we should, with whatever we come up, it should be extendable into the future.
I mean, my point is, it's the only thing that we want to solve is we want to make it less verbose.
Yeah.
If you want to make it less verbose, you incidentally have to add rules to it, which makes it more complex.
I'm not sure it makes it more complex. I mean, I think the difference between like a mapping at the same level and one that starts from the root is understandable, and especially given sort of the idea that in many cases you'll be mapping at the same level, and repeating, as Camille was saying, many fields, like with a complete mapping, doesn't make things clearer. It makes it harder to see what's going on.
I wonder one thing. How many fields do we expect to be in there?
We don't really know for input objects. I mean, it could be complex.
I mean, I know that in Federation there's these crazy requirements and crazy. You showed me a few things, Kamil, with this many dependencies and whatever.
But that's on the key.
Yeah, it's the same thing with requires, right?
Yeah,
people abuse both sometimes,
yeah.
And like we're trying to address that with other mechanisms, like the context.
We also said that it maps more or less 1-to-1, at least in the beginning, with the key. It doesn't necessarily has to be this way in the future, or in the actual release version, or in V2, whatever of the spec. But at the beginning, it maps very closely. A lookup maps very closely with the key. There's a key defined. So if you have complex keys, there will also be a complex mapping logic that you have to specify.
Well, yeah, but it's also not, the syntax is also not just for is, right? It's also for require.
Yeah. I'm just saying. If we say that the more complex cases are usually the keys, then we will have the more complex cases also in lookup, because it's the same thing.
Yeah, I would say that like the most. I don't know, like 80, let's say, % of the world will actually use like, a few fields on top level without nesting. So the shorthand for that's good enough, right? But there are cases where, and I feel like this is the missing percentage, where you have nested fields, like those deeply nested selection sets. This is like, I don't know, I've seen only a few subgraphs, let's say, with those. But so they are not very common. if we make them feel the pain, that's fine. I don't mind. Like it will literally say, oh, it's an anti-pattern, right?
Yeah,
but yeah, but it's like, you know, we punish them for no reason, from my perspective. But
well,
like,
and it's not just those extremes either. I think like one level of nesting with like 2 or 3 fields is
Yeah.
already common.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that would also be really verbose with this. Like if you always have to map from the top syntax, even the like dimension dot width, dimension dot height example.
Yeah, I would
let's
say
give
it's
it.
not like
Let's give it another iteration, and everybody think about ways we could make that without making the syntax too complex.
Yeah.
I mean, also too complex for the user if we introduce lots of symbols into the syntax to get it from the root, to get it toolbase up and stuff like that. It should still be simple. Like what I really like is actually for scalars is super nice, right? For scalars, you can pull things up. It's just a simple dot pass. It maps 1-to-1. And also for simple objects is super nice. It's just, I think it just needs a bit more polish, and then we are good. Okay,
All
we
right.
are actually
that is a task for ourselves for next week.
Yes.
Oh,
So we move
next week.
Yeah, go ahead.
Next week is a U.S.
main.
holiday for the 4th. I'm sure a few of us from the Apollo side won't be attending. I don't know if we are still
can
in the
skip
main.
it. We can skip it because it's a main. It's a main, and then we skip the main to the next one. I'll ping Jeff.
That makes sense because I don't think we have anything new to present to the larger group yet. It would be good if we finish this discussion first.
Yeah, and also we have requires.
Yeah.
Which I want to get some move on. Should we Europeans just do a working meeting?
If you want to do a working meeting, that's great. But I think we should move the primary if we can to the next.
The primary we move to the second. And then we do just a normal one, so we can get a bit more work into the mapping syntax.
That makes sense.
And also on reply. Awesome. Okay, I'll give Jeff a ping and Benji.
Yeah, one more thing, I can like provide some statistics on the keys. Like if it's like, you know, one key or like multiple keys, is it like nested, how deeply nested, and so on. So then we could have like numbers. Is it really worth to, you know, do this? And
I'm also, do you guys, I mean, you're both JavaScript devs, so you know the dangerously set inner HTML, right? The reason why this is named like this is because they wanted to put a name which hurts to type.
Yeah. So, but I don't think we want to hurt people who want to like map
I'm not saying
height to a dimension.
I'm just saying if we have an anti-pattern and it's hard to do the anti-pattern, we shouldn't optimize. I agree with this.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
If we find a good way to the other things, I'm open. What I just fear a bit that we spend it becomes more complex, but we'll see. Let's just get if we get statistics, that would be amazing. And if we get good ideas, then please post them either on the thing or in the Slack channel. So in the Slack channel, because then we can move a bit asynchronously. Awesome. Cool.
Okay.
All right.
See you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.